So as it turns out, there is crying in baseball. It was me. I was crying. That's it. That's my intro. Hey, I'm Amanda. I'm professionally curious and I talk for a living. You're watching Swell Entertainment, the channel where I tell you about whatever I'm obsessed with every week. And this week we are talking about the opening weekend of the Women's Professional Baseball League, the WPBL, in Springfield, Illinois. Before I get into this video, I want to do something that I don't normally do because of the comments I have already been getting on videos from throughout the weekend. This is my content. I go to events and I review the fan experience. I review my experience, the good, the bad, and I share what I think can be improved. I am reviewing this the way that I review anything and everything that I talk about. I don't think that me changing my format of how I do my reviews would be, one, true to myself, or two, do anything less than a disservice to these athletes and this league. I don't think that just because this is a historic moment, that means that we can't talk about the realities of the experience of attending a women's professional baseball league. Now, if you don't think you can handle me sharing my actual experience of going, including some negatives, protect your peace and log off. Click out of this. I totally understand. I get it. I want this league to succeed. I want these athletes to succeed, and therefore I'm going to talk about this experience and my thoughts on it. And I start seeing comments like, it's disappointing that this is what you're talking about, or positive vibes only. You're on the wrong channel, baby. Am I so glad I was there for this moment? Absolutely. I didn't just cry once. I cried a lot. I have to be honest about my thoughts, and also I do think that being honest about any possible negatives or, any criticisms, anything like that, leads to things being better in the future. I would love to get comments 2 months from now being like, Amanda, I went and this was amazing and X, Y, and Z. I'd love that. But I need to not lie to myself and lie to you and only talk about the positives because that's not how this weekend went. And that's how this goes. Okay? Okay. Now that I have that bean soup-esque toxic positivity type disclaimer out, let's talk about the Women's Professional Baseball League opening weekend. So what is the Women's Professional Baseball League? It's exactly what it sounds like on the tin. It's women's professional baseball. Last time there was a professional women's baseball league was the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, which ended in 1954. And yes, this is the league that the movie and then show A League of Their Own is based on, which means that this past Saturday that this was the first time in 71 years that a professional baseball league for women existed. So I've been excited about this league for over a year. For those of you who don't know, I come from a baseball family. Did I ever play softball? Also no, because I didn't want to play softball. I was also not an athletic child. That came later. And even now, barely athletic. But I've been very excited for this league going forward, and I also love women's sports, so I was very excited to see this. In fact, to further my credentials in baseball for you, my very first actual job, as in the first job where I was given a paycheck, I was a spy for my high school's baseball team. Scout, spy, depends what word you want to use. But I was very excited for this league to open, and I knew I was going to go to opening day and opening weekend, and it's perfect because they are launching with 4 teams. Now, the 4 teams are based around cities, the Los Angeles Queens, the San Francisco Firebells, the New York Heights, and the Boston Hunters. Now, these teams, though they are named after cities, they are not based in these cities and they are not playing in these cities. All of the games are played in Springfield, Illinois, Robin Roberts Stadium, because no other major leagues or minor league teams would be using it in this time, I believe. And so all of the games will be played at Robin Roberts Stadium, and that's where they were for opening weekend. I bought my tickets on the 19th of July. For general admission, it was $20, and then for front row seating, it was $50. And I mean, I was right above the Firebells dugout that day. So single game tickets, group tickets, Flex Pass. They also have a Founders Front Row Club and a Legacy Club. As far as baseball games go, tickets-wise, very reasonable. Now, the unreasonable part comes into that if I want to support the LA Queens or any of the other teams, I do have to go to Springfield, Illinois. I did pay a chunk of money to go, but this is my job. Now, I will be saying this even with the notes I'm going to give in this video. I will be trying to go to another game this season. I'm trying to make it work in my schedule so I can fly back out there and go to more, because I will make sure this league is successful if I have to drag it by the diamond myself, I will do so. So I ended up also getting a media pass. I did keep my ticket, got access to the media day the day before, so I ended up changing my flight so I could go out a day early. And then I got access to the press conferences after the games. On the 30th, 29th, I believe, is when they announced that ESPN Select, which is a streaming part of ESPN, and that they were going to be getting all of the games, including all the playoff games, and some of the games, I believe 11, will be streamed on Scripps, which I believe is a subset of Roku. That's at least where you can access it outside of the US. You can watch it for free on YouTube. Some players, some creators that have been talking about this league for a bit did share that you can watch the games for free on YouTube. I was telling my stream chat that because that's what I had heard. They did not tell me that. That's what I had heard throughout the grapevine, and I was very excited for that. That's been really successful for other leagues, especially new leagues, especially for women. For, the PWHL, F1 Academy has seen success as well. Now, they are not a professional league. They are a hopefully one-day feeder series. It's a junior league for Formula One, but still, that's also an all-women's league that was streaming for free on YouTube. Originally, I was like, oh, this is cool. They got a broadcast partner. And then I thought about it further and I was like, okay, this could be a problem. And a lot of fans were frustrated, especially because to announce this 2 days before the first game of the season, I think was a bad move, and many fans were frustrated. One comment I got on my video about this and how I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. I feel like this could be a misstep for the, upfront growth and longevity of the league. Because, if you have the games for free on YouTube, Savannah Bananas also have had their games for free. I believe currently they still have their games for free on YouTube as well, despite also having streaming deals as well. It helps with building the fandom organically, and also it's easy for someone like me to be like, but you have to see these women play. You got to see these baseball players play. Wow, I forgot to finish a thought. Who'da thunk? Anyways, the comment that I got on my post when I was talking about, I don't know how I feel about this, I don't know if this is going to be a good idea or not, was someone saying that they don't know if they like baseball because they've never watched baseball, but they love supporting women's sports, and so they were very much looking forward to having a new sport to watch, but they don't know if they like it enough to spend $13 on ESPN, if not more. Now I feel like it's more. Time of me recording this, it is Tuesday. Okay, I lost my voice a little bit coming back, and I came back really late on Sunday to my hotel, so was unable to film this then. At the time of me recording this, they still have not released any streaming numbers for opening weekend. As far as attendance goes, they did say they sold out of opening day. We're going to talk about the stadium in a second. I never did, so we're adding it in now. Basically, for the stands, I believe the capacity for Robin Roberts is about 5,200 in total. However, they had two massive parts of the left and right side of the stands blocked off by giant WPBL tarps, basically. And those were a lot of bench seats that were covered. I do think it might be because there's no proper netting for professional baseball for a field of this size. I assume it's to prevent, hopefully, fly balls beaming someone in the head. Curious if they are factoring in those into the selling out or not, because it's like we have just less seats available to sell out. So have the leagues like the PWHL, they played all over the place as well. So it's like, yeah, maybe you could go to a game, but you also then could watch on YouTube. It's harder to get to Springfield, Illinois for most fans. And so then it's like taking also the ability to watch on YouTube for free away seems like a mistake. Media day, I went in. There was originally going to be an open practice that we would be able to go to at Robin Roberts. It ended up raining, so that ended up not being a thing that we could go to. There was a Fire Bells practice, but there was limited space. I decided not to take up that space and request to be able to have access, so I just went to the media day and to go to the press conference with all of the team managers for the teams, and then about 6 of the players, okay, including the 4 team captains. I knew I was excited, but I was exhausted. Like, when I went to Springfield, it was at the tail end of really 70 days of nearly nonstop travel and laundry layovers. I had just been going. And I was exhausted. And I had a lot of issues getting to my flight to get to Springfield and didn't get to my hotel until 3:30 a.m. that Friday. It really was like, God, am I pushing this? Am I insane for doing this? This is just going to take me out, basically. And then sitting in the media room, looking at the chairs, looking at the backdrop with the WPBL and all the team names on it. I was sitting next to another creator, and I just said, God, my blood is pumping. Like, I'm so excited. Like, it really, I don't know if it really hit me And like I told people like, yeah, no, I'm going to the Professional Women's Baseball League opening. Like I'm so excited like going in. But until I was actually sitting in that room, I don't think it had really hit me what it was. The managers came out and it was Rocky, who was the team manager for the New York Heights. And she was talking about, you know, her history of being able to play and how she knows most of these athletes. Like of the 60 women that are playing, you know, she probably knows 40 of them. And how she gets to now, you know, coach these women and, you know, coach with her son as well. And just talking about like her parents can't be here, but they're watching, you know, and just that I started tearing up there. No one saw me. I kept it cute, kept it classy. The players came out and they you know, talked about just so many different things. Now for Swell Entertainment, there's a lot of events I go to and I'm like, I need to be at this because I think this is going to be a big deal, or I think this is going to be a mess, or I'm at something. And in that moment, I realize while I'm there, like, oh, this is going to be something big. When I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking like this is going to be, you know, a hashtag on Twitter. You know, this is going to be, there's going to be articles written about this. This video could do well. But like to be sitting in a room and you know history is being made, I'm not crying. And to just know that you're sitting in something and it's a big deal. And to think about like the reality of like how different your life would be if you had seen this when you were a kid or something is like a big deal. No one's allowed to say I don't care about this fucking league. Like, I just want things to be better. But basically sitting in the media room and hearing, you know, Rocky talk about her history with baseball and then coming to be a team manager, have the athletes come out and talk about, you know, their careers and, you know, how this is impacting them and what they're looking forward to. I'm trying to not mess up my makeup even further. It was very cool to experience. I'm not going to cry again. Oh my God. I left the media room and I drove back to my hotel and I just sat in my car and I just filmed a video just to talk about that feeling. And I was crying then too, which is really irritating that I just keep doing that. And you know, it's one of those things to like sit in a room and know that things are changing. And lately, especially, I think this is also probably why it's so emotional because I'm not crying as I'm crying. Okay. You know, in 2026, there's just a lot of bad all the time. There's a lot of really bad history being made. And so it's really cool to be in the room for something that's like really exciting. And I'm like ugly crying. Okay. It's just really cool. And also really cool to think about like, God, what would have 6-year-old me have thought about? Or wow, my life would be different if I had seen this then. No one's allowed to say I don't care about this league. Because I care so fucking much and it's annoying. It would be easier if I didn't care this much. I'd probably have less notes if I cared less. We're chilling. We're good. We're Gucci. We're fine. Everything's fine. Anyways, opening day. The game was supposed to start at 5, and then I believe it was changed to 5:30 at some point. But because of the rain, there was going to be a rain delay, most likely. The game was happening regardless, in my personal opinion, but there was a rain delay. I got in about 2 to 3 hours early, and it's a small, Robin Roberts Stadium is small. It holds, I think, about 5,200 in total. But I was told that the team that normally plays there, like this stadium doesn't see that type of crowd most of the time. They don't get to a capacity all that often. I do not know how true this is. I don't live there. And so line was long from the jump. I feel like there's a better way to do the lines, but with this parking lot, I don't know if there's a way to do it with this particular entrance unless we move the actual line to that sidewalk and there's no lining up like at the gate itself for the baseball field for the stadium itself, because it's like a sports park. Like they're all over the country. And the Robin Roberts Stadium is just part of it. They had the entrance gate and the tickets right at the front, and then the lines kind of started, you know, from there and fed into the sidewalk of the parking lot and then went back into the rest of the parking lot. And so one of the lines kind of like curved out this way. Now there was a line for the legacy holders and all of that. I don't know if that was easy to tell from the back, because I did hear people being like, why didn't they tell us that? Now I have to go wait in this long line. The lines did move fairly quickly. And at one point, because I had a media pass, I went up to the media table and I was like, is there a media entrance? And there was, but the people at the media table didn't know that at the time. So they were like, yeah, you can just cut. My anxiety will physically not allow me to do that. Also, I had a GA ticket. I was going to have to sit around these people. Absolutely not. I'm not cutting anything. 35, 40 minutes in line. Plenty of time before the game started, so that's not what I was worried about. They were doing the wands and bag checks. There was a no bags line. That's when I got the very first bobblehead of the night. Monet Davis. Amanda, why did you grab a bobblehead if you were media? I grabbed a bobblehead because I also had tickets. I paid for my tickets, therefore I get a bobblehead. Here's Monet Davis's bobblehead. And I'm glad I grabbed these actually overall because I never got any merch. Inaugural season for it down there. Very cute. Very fun. I appreciated bobblehead, so that's nice. Saw the merch line. The merch line was absolutely insane. This is the merch line. It goes all the way.
Boston, New York. I'm from Boston, so I gotta find out.
It's still going.
Oh, the baby. There's a baby.
Oh my god, does it wrap around the the stands? Oh, there's a pretzel. I can get a pretzel. Still going. Still going the entire time. Now, they did have inaugural weekend merch, and it was, I believe, a t-shirt and I think it was just the t-shirts. There was an inaugural weekend shirt and then an inaugural season shirt. I don't know for certain. I only saw one of the shirts because they sold out on day one. Talk of the rain delay. There was no confirm of when they were going to actually open it. So there was kind of like mixed things going around. Players were just around, like from the jump. This definitely is going to be ending by the end of the season. I don't see how this can change, but I also don't know where else you'd put them. There's just players around, like from the Queens, from the Heights, from the Firebells, from the Hunters. They were just kind of everywhere. So like the amount of access, like even without a media badge, that you just can have to like players, they're just kind of around, especially opening day when all four teams were here for opening ceremonies. They were, just very accessible, easy to talk to. I do have mixed feelings about that as far as like player safety, but everything seemed fine. The only time that I saw things maybe needing to be a problem it was Monet. It was day 2. And she did have someone with her from the league. So they were able to be like, hey guys, she's got to go, basically. That was after they had won already. Yes, spoiler alert, the Queens won. I was going to get a pretzel at one point, and I went to get in line. I waited in line, and then they said, there's no pretzels. We don't have pretzels yet. I was like, oh, okay. Some things here did feel like they just weren't prepared for opening day, which is confusing to me because they knew 7 days ago is when it was announced that opening day was sold out. I feel like food-wise for the stadium, things could have been a little more sorted out. One spot, which was by the VIP area, by media, and the ADA area, this is the most ADA accessible food spot, they only had popcorn and beverages. And at one point I went up and I was like, oh, can I get a popcorn, please? And she was like, that guy literally just bought our last one. There were pretzels. At some point there were pretzels. I saw multiple children with pretzels. Waited in line again on opening day as well. I was like, I'm so hungry. Let me go wait in line again to get a pretzel. And it said pretzels, and it had been hours, and I had seen pretzels. So I waited in line. We don't have pretzels, only hot dogs. So I got a stupid hot dog. That was another thing I heard from other people that were there. It's like concessions were a little frustrating. They also had like a grab and go whole stand, like right in the middle of the layout of where under the bleachers were. And that was like probably like a faster spot to grab food. That was not open at all opening day. They did end up opening it up day 2. There's little things that were sorted out by day 2 that are confusing to me why they weren't sorted day 1. I don't know how much of that is the stadium, how much of that is WPBL, but still, I'm acknowledging it. Okay? Much to everyone's annoyance on my comment section. Merch line, super long. I was like, you know what? I'll come back tomorrow. I have the media access. I'll get in early and I'll get in line early. They did have posted, and I didn't see this initially, but they did have a 2 per person only. Now, I don't know if that was 2 of each item per person or 2 items period per person. I don't know. So they delayed everything, including the opening ceremonies that they were going to be doing. I ended up being for the opening ceremonies in the VIP area. That was like a little like raised deck that they had media was doing some interviews there and things like that. We were allowed up there. So I was right behind the Hunters where they were waiting before going out for the opening ceremonies. And they did... We're going to get to a point that I know it's going to be so unpopular how I feel about this thing. I just know it as I'm saying it, but I'm going to say it regardless. I was soaked. I had a denim jacket. It just sucked up all the water, and it stayed damp the entire time. The rain starts letting up enough that they decide to remove the tarp from the diamond. I think it's a bad look that the players were helping take the tarp off the diamond. Glad they could help. I don't think that should have been a thing they needed to do. The Hunters and Firebells, I think, were the 2 teams that were helping. It happened. Not much I can do about that now. I would have preferred I went out there and did it, frankly. I do think that I would have preferred you grabbed media people, you grabbed anyone from the stands and had us do it, frankly. I think that would have been preferred. Because would you have had other players do this in other professional leagues? Because that's what this is supposed to be. That's my thought. That's my thought process. That's my thought process. So getting the diamond ready to go, started doing opening ceremonies. By the time the game actually started, it did start sprinkling again. It was kind of misting. So it was misting kind of the entire game. And then there was quite a bit of rain. There's a decent rain cell coming through around the sixth inning, I believe. So they bring the fireballs out. They bring the hunters out. They bring they go through the lineups of the queens and the heights. And then they bring out some of the people that have brought the league together, supported women's sports, and they brought out some players from the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, including Maybelle Blair. Now, Maybelle is 99 years old and a rock star. She broke 4 ribs, and she was still here in a wheelchair. They did a couple, ceremonial first pitches, and Maybelle threw the first pitch to Kelsey Whitmore, and so I was crying then. I've never cried during the national anthem before. But I did cry during this national anthem. Brought the flag out into the outfield, and there was a bunch of girls holding it, but there was this little girl in her little dress. And so just to see, oh God, I'm not crying again. I don't know why seeing her with all of these players really got me emotional, because there was tons of little girls around. There was tons of little boys around. There was kids everywhere. I don't know why this little girl walking out with everyone carrying the flag really got me.
Robin Roberts Stadium, please welcome.
That's right.
Reeves.
But it did. And so I was like crying during the national anthem, and then the national anthem is what the national anthem was. And then it was time to play ball. The hunters came back out this way, and they were just kind of around the whole time. That was one thing. I don't know how much time and care was put into like what the Firebells and the hunters were going to be doing during the rest of the game. There were some spots to sit in the VIP area, but there weren't like seats available for them. Pretty much all of them were carrying their backpacks with all of their uniform gears because they had been in their uniforms for the opening ceremonies. At one point, it was like, oh no, don't get food. They're catering. And then someone came over with a tray of hot dogs for them that were just like the wrapped hot dogs, like the one that I got with nothing on them. And then they ran out, and then they went to go get more. And so I don't think the players stayed for the whole rest of the game. They were there for quite a while, though. Where are these players going if they are going to be requested to be on site for something like the opening ceremonies, things like that? So Monet Davis was the very first at bat for the Women's Professional Baseball League. Maggie Fox got the very first hit of the Women's Professional Baseball League. Good game. It was very exciting. I was very glad to see it. Most of these players had not been on this field. And that is one thing that I do think is not ideal, for these athletes, for these players. The Women's Baseball World Cup was literally like the week before the opening weekend. I don't know how intentional that was of like, this is a positive or a negative, because it also meant that a lot of these players, I think Maggie Fox got in the day before the game. So like most of these managers had not seen these teams play together. Most of these players had not played together in this team formation ever. Most of these athletes have played together against each other at some point in their careers. Kelsey had brought up during the media day that it's like, yeah, we play together for like a week and then we don't see each other for a year or two. That's very common for women's baseball prior to this. And so for them to all be playing on the same teams together for 2 months with seemingly very little practice time beforehand, teams themselves seemingly were not practicing together leading up to this. I don't know if I agree with that as a decision now, based off of payments and things like that, which we'll talk about in a second. I don't know how we could have justified that any other way, but I do think that comes down to, the funding that exists here. My point is with bringing this up is that I do think we're going to see these players develop and change so much, these teams develop so much by the end of this season, by the time we get to playoffs, because these players just have not had time to grow into their positions in this teams yet. I just as it stands. Again, I want to make this very clear. These are fucking athletes. They're rock stars. A handful of athletes that got called up Wednesday before. They weren't drafted from the draft last year. They got called up the Wednesday before, and it's like, hey, we need you in Springfield. And they made it out there, and they were on the team, and they were getting hits and shit. So it's just like with me saying, I think we're going to see these players grow and develop. I'm not saying to knock these athletes. I'm saying that I do think that more practice time as teams separately would have been better than this formation that we went with, but that's just me. I'm also not a coach. I'm just an annoying chick on the internet. Danae Benitez got the first home run of the Women's Professional Baseball League. Now her team did lose. They also got the first loss of the Women's Professional Baseball League. I do think that team had a lot to be proud of that game. That was crazy. Okay. Press conference afterwards, was still crying. I kept crying. I just kept kind of crying here and there. I would at least tear up here and there. I literally was filming the entire time that Danae got her home run. So like there is video of me just screaming.
And home run by Danae Benitez, her first home run this season.
Opening day, they were still saying that they had tickets available for day 2. They didn't say how many tickets, but I figured maybe 100, maybe 200. Maybe that's what those numbers were, and it just looks very different when I'm on site. Now, before the day started, I got an email from the ticket companies, no reply, WPBL tickets. We are thrilled to welcome you to opening weekend presented by iHeartRadio in the inaugural season of the Women's Professional Baseball League. Now, I got this on Sunday, not Saturday, the first day. Merchandise. We know many fans are excited to show their WPBL pride. Although merchandise will not be available at the venue today, you can browse items available on our online store. So the idea with having inaugural weekend merch is that you have merch available the entire inaugural weekend. I heard different things. Someone had been told that like a truck is coming. Someone has said that the merch isn't coming for another week. Either way, I think as soon as you start realizing that inaugural merch is selling out, you take half of whatever is left and you set it aside. You know how many tickets you sold. You know people are going to want the inaugural weekend merch. Whatever stock you have, you take half, you set it aside for the next day. I don't think you let yourself sell out day 1. Now, again, some people were like, it's exciting that everyone brought merch. Yes, this was avoidable though. They could have made way more money because so many people wanted merch. Sure, yes, amazing that some people wanted merch. We can frame it like that. We also can frame it as the league lost out on money because they didn't plan ahead accordingly for the opening weekend that people want to have merch at. And also, there was some decent sized gaps in the seating arrangements for the second day. Attendance was down quite a bit. Even people that had been there with media, some of them had to leave because it was a late Sunday night game. They then went to go check the spot where I tried to get a pretzel the day before. Also, no pretzels, no Dr. Pepper, no a few things that were out that were specifically targeting Swell Entertainment, Amanda Golka specifically, it felt like. Alas, and as I said, they did open up that like snack spot, or they were prepping to open it up. They also turned one of the men's bathrooms into a women's bathroom. Shockingly, there was more women here than men. Oh, also, day 2, Kelsey was the bobblehead. This is fun. I like this. One thing I didn't talk about for opening day. So the WPBL, they have a mascot. I already feel people poised to be angry at me. I always think it's a bad idea to base a mascot and model them after a real human person. So the mascot for the WPBL is Maybelle, modeled after Maybelle Blair. I have a few thoughts for why I think this is a bad idea. And I know no one likes to talk about this, but life can happen. And as I said, I've already been crying a lot about this, but their excitement, it's happy tears. I love women. Those are the tears. I don't want to be crying sadness every time a mascot comes out to get the crowd hyped. You know what I'm saying? And so I feel that's very, very ill-planned. Also, you usually don't model a mascot off of a real person. A mascot's gonna mascot. And I kind of don't want to see Maybelle shaking ass and doing cartwheels and showing off red underwear on the mascot. And then also hobbling off with the baseball cane because Maybelle Maybelle Blair has a sick baseball cane. It's a baseball bat turned into a cane. Yeah, I feel like we move into disrespectful territory when we do that. Now, Maybelle, I believe, is on the board for the Women's Professional Baseball League, so I don't know if she approved this. I'm not certain. I feel it's disrespectful. Now, it's not up to me, but I want to share those feelings. I also just feel like there's obviously a lot of history with the All-American Girls League here. However, and we're focusing on how historic this moment is for women to be professionally playing baseball and how amazing that is. However, I think for the longevity of this league, we can't just rely on that. We can't rely on the historic. We can't rely on the nostalgia. And so I think a mascot, if you were going to have a mascot for the WP, the league itself and not the teams. Now, I do think I have thoughts for mascots for the team. But if you're going to have a mascot for the league specifically, I feel like this would have been a really great way to start kind of creating your own identity away from the All-American Girls League. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's gonna be the most annoyed about that one. I feel it in my bones. Anyways, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. All right, then we had the Firebells versus the Hunters. Okay. The reality of it is that the Firebells are stacked. I think that's what's happening here. The Hunters did their all, but for lack of better phrasing, this was kind of an ass kicking. I'm excited to see how they play going forward. The Firebells, there was this weird moment. This had nothing to do with me, not really. So I went to the press conference, and previously the press conferences, I have not actually said anything because I don't want to take away from any of the actual journalists that are there, because I'm not a journalist. I'm just an annoying chick with a YouTube channel. And so I hadn't been asking questions previously, but there were less media in day 2, so I felt a little more comfortable asking a question. And I just asked the Firebells during the press conference, like, oh, now that you guys won, but you're playing the Heights next, they are looking for redemption because they lost first day. They're fired up. They've already talked about that. How are you thinking of rearranging the team or prepping going forward for that game specifically? And their team manager answered my question. He's like, do you want me to take it? And I said, sure, totally. And he answered my question, totally fine, no big deal. But then he answered a question that someone else had asked earlier to the players. Before I had asked my question, another person in the room asked the players, you've often been the only woman on the team. How does that feel now to be on a team with all girls? And, Kelsey said, it's like, I've always felt like I've had to be perfect being the only girl. I felt very comfortable. I felt very free to do what I needed to do. And it was just a good question, okay? But apparently that stuck with their manager. Because tell me why this man looked down the barrel of my camera, my phone, and said he doesn't see gender.
If I could add one thing, I listening to them speak about being the only ones, right? I look at this and I look at our team as baseball players. I don't see gender. Right? They're all players, and that's how they treat it. Right? That's how we're going to treat it. They're phenomenal athletes. They understand the game. They work hard. What more could you ask for as a manager or as a coaching staff? So we're excited about what's coming in the future.
I get what he was talking about, because it was kind of the notion that everyone was saying the whole weekend of like, yeah, these aren't women playing baseball. These are baseball players. Like, we're not trying to say that like women get to play baseball or women can't play baseball. Like, these are athletes. These are baseball players. And I think that was proven this weekend. I really want to acknowledge how fucking insane these athletes are. This was incredible. Even with the lack of practice that we are seeing, or that I'm learning they had, rock stars. Okay. So I don't think that was, I get what he was saying. It was just a crazy way to say it. And also, it was not my question that asked that, so to direct it at me, I don't take it personally, because I don't think it wasn't personal. I just for the press conference, I didn't see the kids running the bases. There was a running of the bases the kids did, but they did also do a fireworks show to close out opening weekend. I got to go down with a few other media people to the field for that. I cried again. I did, like, seeing the Firebells lined up watching the fireworks together. I even got some photos of some of the Hunters watching together as well. It was just very cool. It was a fun way to close out the weekend. They turned out all of the lights in the stadium, which it got real dark. If I had been sitting in my seat, I would have been stressed. Excited to see this league grow. Like I said, you guys are stuck with me. I'm determined. This will be successful. What I didn't talk about is these athletes getting paid. Basically, per week, these athletes are being paid about $800. Room and board is covered. They are in Springfield the entire time. I believe they're all being put up at a hotel somewhere. We'll see. Hopefully over time, hopefully there's excitement. I think these players played incredibly, and I hope that more sponsors will come in and more money will come in so that these players can be compensated accordingly. There'd be no room to grow if we were only talking about the positives, and pretending that this is the perfect league and this is the perfect place to start. I think there's a lot of room to grow here, and I think there's a lot of things that can develop so that these athletes can have what they deserve as players, that these fans that are excited for this league, that have wanted this league for 70 years, get to see these players play. We can talk about how historic this is, and also talk about the fact that, like any sport, this is a business and there are people that are going to be profiting from it. They have not released the details of the ESPN deal. Who's getting what money? How much money was it? Where is it going? How is this going to help build out player infrastructure? Getting this out of Springfield at some point, what's the plan there? One of the co-founders is also the commissioner. I have thoughts about that. There's things that are developing and changing, and it's exciting to see how this is going to go. But also, doesn't mean anything is perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm a fucking YouTuber. That's all. That's going to be it. Did you watch the Professional Baseball League? Are you annoyed I kept crying throughout this video? Are there any players that you do not see in the Women's Professional Baseball League, but you would be excited to see them in a team in the future? Ooh, pitch a mascot. Pitch a mascot for a team. For one of these teams. Let me know. Comment down below. Reminder to stream on Twitch. My Swell Entertainment is now available on Spotify. My check out Girly Pop. Go if you'd like some more car and motorsport content. Shout out to my channel members. Thank you so much for some of my channel memberships. Also explore my channel memberships. Go and like join up below. If they're on social media, let it be all up here. That's me. Have a lovely day. Goodbye. Listen, if I need to make more money so that I can invest in the Women's Professional Baseball League, I'm going to own a team at some point. Mark my words.